you ever wonder why the system we work in calls all of us, guys like me, financial advisors instead of financial sales reps? See, because that's what we all are. I'm sorry, but how's that for being direct? By the way, I told you it's going to be direct, right? So let me tell you why I believe the system is set up to make you guys and everybody think of us as financial advisors. See, when people hear the word advisor, they think in terms of expertise, right? Yeah, and so the people who actually created the financial system that we all have to either live in or work in, they want you to believe that with all those, special letters, designations, licenses, certifications, of course, the fancy offices, the suits, all that, that we are financial experts, financial gods and gurus, right? Advisors to all things money. But see, look, that's not entirely true. It's probably not even partially true in a lot of cases. But it is a perception, frankly, that we're all taught to make, those of us in the business. And we're taught, actually, it's very important for us to create that perception in your mind. Well, I don't like mind games, particularly when it comes to my, life savings, financial matters. But I got to tell you, I've watched and they work. The vast majority of us, we get sucked right into them, and most of the time, we never even really, we don't even know it. We don't even realize it. I want to show you, try anyway, to show you an example. We're going to try to have some fun here today. I hope that you'll stick around and enjoy the process as we go through this. But I'm going to try to show you an illustration of this idea that we try to create perceptions in your mind and just how effective we can be doing that. I'm going to show you a picture of myself now. I want to warn you, I'm guessing this is probably the first financial seminar or webinar or whatever that you've attended, been to, where the speaker presented himself in such an unflattering way. Because let's be honest, this outfit you're looking at here, it doesn't make me look too successful, does it? Or as my wife say, honey, you don't look all that smart there. Look, hey, it is what it is, right? I mean, seriously, look, this guy you're looking at here, I mean, is it the guy that you'd probably pick out of a lineup to trust with your, life savings and retirement? Probably not. If I showed up to an appointment like this, I mean, how comfortable would you be listening to me, right? Let's just be honest. Probably not what any of us had in mind. Why is that, by the way? Well, it's obviously because we've all been trained and conditioned, good, bad, or indifferent, to connect, success and intelligence and wisdom, particularly when it comes to the management of our money, with a certain, appearance and certain standards, right? And this guy that you're looking at, he ain't got that appearance, right? Now, this next guy, okay, he's actually going to look a little smarter. So here we go. But even this guy, see, he's probably not the kind of guy that we're looking for. When we're wanting to sit down and talk to somebody serious about our financial matters, right? See, because again, we've all been trained to look for a certain kind of image that defines, success and trustworthiness. Now, part of that is I need to be wearing some fancier threads, right? Because look, the fancier threads that I wear, the more successful and smarter I look to you. Let me prove it. Okay, now watch this. Here we go. Now look at that. Don't I look smarter? Huh? I mean, be honest now. You can make your little remarks. I've probably earned them, but look, I do look smarter, don't I? In fact, you're a little more comfortable listening to this guy than either of the other two, right? Look, and I'm being serious. We're having fun here, but I'm trying to illustrate a pretty serious point. It looks like I can be trusted, right? This guy kind of looks like maybe he knows what he's talking about. So we'll listen and we will trust this guy a little bit more than the other two, right? It's amazing how that works and how perceptions can be created and how we're trained to use things like this against you. See, it's just another simple example of how our industry, the financial industry, works very hard to create perceptions in your mind that, well, we're something, for instance, in this case, smart and able to help you with all things financial, when we may not be. As a matter of fact, most of you, especially the ones that I'm going to be right for today, have probably already started to figure out that truth. And, the truth is, not one of us, at least in my industry, has a clue what's going to happen in the financial markets tomorrow, let alone a week from today or a decade from now. I mean, isn't that right? You know that. We have no idea. How many of you got a call? Let me ask you, how many of you got a call the day before the financial collapse started from your, high-paid, fee-based financial advisor in that mahogany office of his, advising you to get out before you lost your shirt again? See, just as looks can be deceiving, so can a long line of capital letters and, a nice office and certifications, and a fancy business card. See, a lot of the things that we do in the financial industry are really, at the end of the day, they're all really geared to make you feel comfortable doing things with your life savings that we know otherwise you probably wouldn't be comfortable doing. Things like risking the loss of 50 or 60% of your life savings, in a blink of an eye, at a time when that kind of loss, frankly, could destroy your financial future forever. I have people ask me, all the time, Jeff, why do you do things so differently? And I always tell people, I say, well, I think, unlike most financial advisors, probably, I didn't start my professional career in the financial industry, first of all. Fact is, for most of my professional life, I actually sat on your side of the fence, I was an investor. I was, not in the business. I had had a couple of guys, actually. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you a quick personal story because I want you to know what makes Jeff tick. If I were you, if I were in your shoes, I'd certainly want to know that. And so I'm going to just real quick, I turned 55 years old this March, but in my former professional life, I had been, fairly successful as an entrepreneur. I founded a company along with my father, two employees, which grew to be a 2-time Inc. 500 company right here in Indiana. And actually, our company was on its way to becoming a third consecutive year Inc. 500 company back in 2008, right before the stock market crashed and the implosion of the commercial credit industry then. You, I'm sure, all remember the banks that got bailed out, right? Well, unfortunately, the money that went to bail out the banks in that day, it was not earmarked for small high-growth companies like my father and I's. And in fact, our Wall Street bank actually froze our lines of credit. And they did it within days of having met with us and telling us they were going to substantially increase them, believe it or not. Now, you talk about sucking the oxygen out of a room that's on fire without warning. Within, when that happened, within 3 short months, our cash flow completely dried up. We had been making plans on one base, of assumptions, and the whole thing turned us on our heads. And by the end of the year, as a result of all of that went on, my father and I literally went from owning one of the 500 fastest growing privately owned companies in the United States for now 3 consecutive to losing everything. And I mean everything. Now, I want you to think about this. My father, at the end of at that time, he was, I think he just turned 66. Between our company and the market crash and all that happening at the same time, he lost virtually everything he had worked for and saved his entire life. And I, as his oldest son, had to stand by and watch that happen helplessly. Now, in my case, it got even worse for me. 6 months into it got worse. My wife divorced me, left me with my 2 teenage boys, and within a year, the boys and I had lost our home. And had it not been for a home my parents actually owned in Florida, none of us would have had a place to live. All in the span of a year or a year and a half. And I got to tell you, moving back in with your parents, my parents, in my 40s with a couple of teenagers, that was the most humbling thing I'd ever had to do in my life. Scary too. But I'll never forget about, a week or so when we're all settling in together, right? My parents came to me and they sat me down, and Dad looked at me and he said, you're going to love this. He said, Jeff, son, your mom and I, we kind of been watching you mope around. If all you're going to do is mope around like you've been doing for the last week or so, this is not going to work, and you can go mope someplace else. He said, your problem is that you've forgotten the most important thing your mother and I have spent our lifetimes trying to teach you. See, you think because you lost your business, your home, you've gone through a divorce, you're depressed, you think you've lost all honor and respect from your friends and society, but son, those things have nothing to do with honor and respect, because humility and integrity are really the true garments of honor and respect. Not fancy clothes, titles, or how much money you got in your bank account, or the kind of car you drive. Because see, I had lost all those things, and I was feeling pretty bad about it, actually. And my dad looked at me and very straightforward told me, you need to pull your head out of your you-know-what, and try to take what happened and learn from it so that you can, move forward and help people in the future. And you know what? His directness with me on that day changed my life. Now, I got to tell you, honestly, I couldn't see at the time how anything possibly good could come from all of that. But I did do exactly what he told me to do. And I reached around, grabbed my head, pulled it out of my rear end, and I started studying and trying to learn. And that study and that process ultimately led me to the place, the philosophy, and the practice, financial practice, that I have today. Now, I want you to know, right off the bat, not one of my clients has ever lost a penny due to market volatility, ever. And if you listen to my radio show, you know Wall Street hates me. They don't like me at all. And by the way, when I started in this business, I was trained and licensed on both sides of the fence. Got securities licenses, insurance license, the whole 9 yards. But during the process, here's the secret that I found, and that I didn't like, frankly. The way our industry is set up, there really are only two career paths. You can choose to specialize in financial products that involve risk. And listen to this. Ironically, those products of risk, we call those products securities. That's right. You can't make this stuff up. It is wicked and deceptive down to the very nomenclature and language we use and terms we use to condition you to think certain things about risk. Or you can choose to specialize in financial products and strategies that focus on guarantees. And all of that's fine. In fact, I wouldn't have a problem with it except for this. The system doesn't tell you, the investor, that, right? I mean, what the system tells you and I, what we're all conditioned to believe, is that, for instance, when we go in to see a financial advisor, you pick one, Wells Fargo Financial, Raymond James, Edward Jones, Morgan Stanley, whoever, local guy down the street, doesn't matter. That person has a license to do it all, which, by the way, is generally true. But the idea, the perception that he is an expert advisor and actually understands and has been trained on all things financial products and strategies on both sides of the strategic planning fence, that in reality is not true. See, because here's where the rub is. If you're a brokerage firm, okay, like for instance a Raymond James or an Edward Jones, for example, we'll pick on Ed for a minute, okay? Not to pick on Ed, but corporate Edward Jones, it's a great firm, a very reputable financial firm, been around a long time, but they can only make money on the sale of products and strategies that require a securities license, okay, all of which are products of risk. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, So let me ask you a question. Which of these two types of strategies we've been talking about here do you think advisors who work at Edward Jones, or really any one of these types of brokerage firms, are actually trained on and understand? Huh? See, Edward Jones is not going to spend millions of dollars in branding and advertising every year to drive good people like you and I into their offices and then pay to train their advisors on how and why to sell you financial products and strategies that they, again, Edward Jones Corporate, doesn't make a penny on. That's not going to happen. As a matter of fact, what Edward Jones will do, and by the way, this is just good business, is condition their advisors and train their advisors on why they should really hate these kinds of products and strategies, why they're never right for anybody, why they're the enemy, because they are to them. And you know what we do with our enemies, right? We kill them, we destroy them. So on the one hand, this guy might have a license to sell both, but once you understand how the system works, where the financial incentives are, well, how likely are you to ever get objective financial advice on any of the products on the enemy side of the chart? Well, you're not, and you haven't, and you won't for him. But you are fixing to get it from me right now, today, because that's what I do. I'm a safe money financial advisor, and I'm like a brain surgeon in financial guarantees, growth, and peace of mind. My clients never go backwards. Not due to market risk. They may spend their money, but they never lose it. And I'm here today to teach you and to show you how you can not only protect the savings, and that, by the way, I'm sure it's taken you a lifetime of hard work and sacrifice to get. I'm here today to show you and to teach you why, number one, you should be protecting it. I think that's starting to become a lot more obvious to all of us now. And number two, how you can do that, protect that lifetime of savings, whatever that portion is, and do it in a way that yields a very competitive and reasonable rate of return within the context of safety, right? Without having to take on the anxiety of constantly having to worry about the global economy. Look, I'm going to give you some good news here, because there is some good news too. If you're at a point where you're beginning to realize, hey, you know what, maybe avoiding stress due to all these financial losses or even the potential of loss during our fixed years of retirement and retirement income is actually, that stress is not a good idea. I'd like to avoid that. I have a very powerful solution for you. How about relying on guarantees for your retirement and for your retirement income plan? Think about how stress-free a retirement could be with a guaranteed first-year bonus of up to 15%. And for those of you nearing retirement, how about an IRA income rollover account with guaranteed compound growth of up to 7% for the next 10 years as you head into your retirement? Even better, how about a guaranteed lifetime of income from this account when the day comes for you to finally begin living off that asset? Look, if you're beginning to think that maybe guarantees like this might be a better idea than relying on risky assumptions that Wall Street would love you to continue to make, I want you to go to that link and schedule the appointment right now. See, Wall Street's definition of conservative, balanced portfolios, or what they call diversification, is really just spreading your investment risks over 200 different stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. That's what it meant. But go back to 2008, because I'm guessing for, most of us listening here, those of us who certainly had money in the market during those years, we saw a significant depletion of our investment portfolios. Well, now wait a minute. What? Didn't you all have safely diversified, diversified portfolios, right? According to your broker, you did. He's not about to let you out of his office every year without making sure that you are fully and appropriately age diversified, right? That's his job. Part of it. So what happened in 2008 then? Same thing that's happening today. See, the problem with Wall Street's definition of conservative, safer investment strategies, right? What they call diversification, is that really all it means is that when the market collapses, like it always has and will again, we're going to lose money in 200 different places instead of 20. That's what happens. See, true diversification, I'm going to go back to this. I said this earlier. True diversification is not diversification of risk. True diversification is diversification from risk. And the average person, see, we get taken advantage of because we don't understand this. And we don't understand it because we're not taught, we're not conditioned to understand it. But in an unpredictable world where risk exists, risk is risk. 100%. Your advisor cannot protect you from risk without eliminating risk. And the problem is Wall Street firms, they don't get paid to do that. A traditional Edward Jones or Ken Fisher or whoever, pick one, it doesn't really matter. Nothing wrong with what they do as long as you understand what they do. And the problem is none of us really understand how the system works and what they do. Their financial incentives are all based on our willingness to take risk with our money. And every securities product has a prospectus that actually warns us of this. It says you can lose some part or all of your money. And you got to sign off that you not only read it, but that you understand that. See, once you approach the distribution phase of our financial life, the financial incentives that these Wall Street advisors and firms have, when you think about it, they're no longer really in alignment fully with our financial needs. See, our need at this stage and moving forward more and more is that we need to start taking money out of the account. It needs to be there to support us. And even if you don't need to do that now, at a certain age, the way most of us have saved through tax qualified savings plans, the government's going to force you to do it anyway, right? It's called a minimum required distribution. But understand that, pulling money out when that whole process starts, whenever it starts, that's the only way you and I ever benefit from all the things and times and sacrifices we've made to save. It's the only way we benefit. It's the only time we benefit. You and I can't go to Walmart, for example, and pay for groceries with our monthly brokerage statement. It doesn't work that way, does it? And by the way, why not? I mean, look, if owning stocks, bonds, and mutual funds was such a compellingly profitable thing over the long haul, well, why wouldn't Walmart want our stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, right? Huh? But they don't, do they? No, sir. See, Walmart, they're pretty smart. They want real cash, real money when we walk in that store. And you know what? So should you and I want real cash, real money when we walk through retirement. That's my opinion. For those of us here today, the next 10 years are going to be probably as good as it gets in a lot of ways for us. I mean, think about this. Not one of us here, we're not going to be any younger 10 years from now, obviously, which means we probably won't be any better looking, and our body is probably not going to be able to run faster 10 years from now, right? I mean, that's where it kind of goes down from here, right? It's the way it is. See, my clients are smart enough to realize that, and they've actually thought that through as a result. I'm talking about the ones who are right for me, by the way. And here's what they want. And here's what they think makes the most sense for their situation today. Not risking everything. Having some of their money in a place where it can never go down, never be lost, and they can never run out of it. Look, here's something else my clients have come to realize. They want to enjoy their money with peace of mind. Okay, and they want to do it while they can still do actually all the things that physically, mentally, emotionally they're capable of doing today. They want to spend time with their grandkids. They want to travel. They want to play golf or tennis or go dancing and bowling. I mean, a lot of those things may seem trivial right now, but there will come a day when people will start doing those things again. And whatever it is that you like to do, that's fun, that brings joy to you, that's probably going to be that's important, and those things will help not only make you happier, but you'll live longer too if you're able to do them. My clients want to be able to enjoy their money now, knowing that as they spend their money, it will never run out tomorrow. They want to be guaranteed that. That's one of the most important things my clients are looking for. So in the time that we have remaining here, I'm going to try to show you how you can do these things and how I can help you, if that's what you want here today, at least for some portion of your life savings while you're in retirement. If you've ever listened to someone who's truly an expert on financial retirement planning versus, by the way, financial investment planning, right? Because there's a big difference between financial retirement planning versus financial investment planning, okay? The retirement planning expert will generally give you probably 3 reasons to leverage financial strategies that include guarantees. We're going to talk about all 3 of these things. In fact, the first one is risk of loss, of course, right? Number 1. Number 2, we're going to look at a risk of sequence of returns. And then number 3, risk of longevity of life, which actually is a risk in and of itself, but it's a multiplier of risk because it makes both number 1 and number 2 even more dangerous. You know, the problem with relying solely on market-based variable account strategies to produce 100% of what we want or need in our retirement, for a predictable long-term retirement income, I think it's best illustrated when we understand the concept of something called sequence of returns. Now, that's the second thing we're going to talk about. You see, in retirement, with any variable risk-based income asset account strategy, we really have a couple of concerns. I'm going to show that to you here. I've got a chart I'm going to throw up here that's going to illustrate how all these things can intertwine and work together to hurt us and create a kind of really a vicious circle of ever-increasing risk. What you're looking at here is it's something that I use to really illustrate something called sequence of returns and how powerful that impacts our portfolio performances. It's a chart that actually contains the S&P 500 market indice returns, sourced, by the way, through information that's available at ycharts.com. You can all go there and verify that if you want. From years 2000 through the end of 2018. Now, it shows we've got a fictitious client here who's starts with $1 million, he's 65 years old, taking a $50,000 income, right, 5% drawdown, and we've indexed that income annually as you go down the far right column there, end of year value column, to a COLA, a cost of living adjustment of 3%, just to account for inflation over time, right? Purchasing power. And so that's what we're looking at. Now, the account management fees that you're looking at here are figured at 1.5% because we're just basing, frankly, on the national averages. That's what it is. Which leaves us, over this period of time, or our client actually, an after or net of fee return of 4.54% for the historic, basically, I guess, 19-year period. Now, I want to point a couple of things out. First of all, had the client buried his money in the backyard, okay, and gotten 0% return and used the same, distribution format that we've got scheduled for him here, his money would have lasted him 18.6 years, okay? But you'll notice in this account, he got better than a 0% return. He didn't bury it in the backyard. He actually got a positive return, 4.5%, right? A little over 4.5%. And yet his money didn't last him 18.6 years. In fact, he ran out of money in the, 13th year? In fact, he didn't even get to take 12 and a half years, basically, he ran out of money, okay? Now think that through, okay? Before he's 78 years old, right, he's broke. Now, here's the question. And this is the question, frankly, a prudent, strategic-minded retirement investor should be asking today. Should this risk be left on the table at all, if at all, right? I mean, these are actually real numbers here. Shouldn't they scare the variable account income strategy, right, out of almost all of us who are in the middle class when we're probably never going to have enough, really, for ourselves and or our families, especially those of us, by the way, who are conservative and strategic minded in our approach to investment strategies at this point. But as bad as all of the aforementioned historical accurate example is, it could actually, believe it or not, get a lot worse. And I want to illustrate just how utterly vulnerable we really are when left to rely solely on a variable risk-based account management strategy for, our retirement need, our income routine, particularly in retirement. So this chart now that you're looking at, actually pretty much the same thing, right? Same time period. And we're using the same exact returns on an annual basis, except we have arbitrarily changed the order in which those returns occurred. That's called sequence of returns. And what we've done is we've structured them, we've ordered them so that the best returns occurred in the first year and then the second and cascading down. And the worst returns, or all the negative years, occurred in the least punitive order, meaning from the lowest negatives to the highest negatives, all in that. So the sequence has been flipped into the worst possible scenario that could have occurred. This is the best possible sequence of returns. This is the best possible, all right? Look what happens to our client. He takes the same money, and this time, instead of, not lasting more than 12 years, he went the entire time, and his account actually went up. And yet, he got the same 4.54 average rate of return over that period of time. What's that tell you about average rates of return? Kind of irrelevant, aren't they? So I'm going to show you one more, again, just to put an exclamation point, help you understand how critical this is. This chart is now the same historical returns, again, over that 19-year period. Same withdrawals, but now we've structured the returns in a sequence that is absolutely the worst case scenario possible. And in this example, as you can see, our client, same income, same average returns over time, but in this case, he didn't even last a full 5 years, 6 years. He's broke. Powerful, isn't it? The difference between these three, it's staggering. And again, in all the cases, the average annual rate of return that he earned over the time period was the same. I want you to let this sink in, because only the sequence of returns varied, which makes the sequence of returns probably the most powerful and compelling reason, really, that risk ought to be eliminated from every prudent strategic retirement income plan. Would I rather brag about the annual the annual average rate of return that I achieve over a long haul period of time in retirement? Or is it more important that I'm able to boast about the fact that I never ran out of income and was able to spend every dime that I actually worked and saved my entire life during retirement? Which is more important to you? See, if the latter is more important to you, if your answer to that question was then I'm right for you. And my strategies, frankly, are the only sure way to achieve that strategic goal, which again makes me right for you. And because I'm right for you, if you agreed with that, I want you to go to this link right here, right now. Again, if you haven't, and I want you to schedule your appointment, your meeting with me right now. Don't worry about whether it's online or in person. Again, once you're on my calendar, I'm going to reach out to you. We're going to figure all that out. But schedule the appointment right now. Time. Over the long haul, during the distribution years of retirement, sequence of returns, well, look, it can make irrelevant any average annual rate of return. My point is, it doesn't matter what the projection is for the market. What your financial advisor or your broker says, the market's going to do this over the long, this is what it's done, it doesn't matter. Because where we're at in life at this stage, the best return you can imagine, we can make it a 10 or 15% return, and still sequence of returns could make irrelevant those types of returns. And no one has the ability to manage or predict sequence of returns. We haven't even talked about longevity. Look, the longer, there is a very good chance, statistically, if you're 65 years aged today or older, 50% chance actually, that one out of the two of you who are married at that age are going to live past the age of 90. You can go to longevityillustrator.org and you can enter your own personal information situation, and it'll tell you. It'll show you what your projected risk chances are for longevity. So the longer we're living in retirement, the more likely all of this stuff just increases in terms of risk. So just to summarize and kind of wrap up here, when asset preservation and income drawdowns and scary times, when they're all here, and that's our season of life, our primary goal, at least for a portion of our retirement nest egg, should always be eliminate the risk on that portion, whatever it is, whatever we need. And that's what I do. And that's how I help people. And I don't care. You can risk whatever you want to risk. It's your money. It's your life. I'm okay with that. It's not going to impact my life at all. But if it makes sense for you today to be looking at the best in class asset preservation and income perpetuation strategies, I'm a brain surgeon in that. It's all I do. Nobody does it any better. And I can help you if that's what you want. Do you want what I do? I can help you if you do. Go to that link. Get on my calendar. It's been my absolute privilege and honor to talk to you today. And I look forward to meeting you soon. Bye, everybody.